the sewers. I want to show you what they just pulled out of the sewer. Seattle Public Utilities just handed this to me. Inside, this is some of the water and the debris from the runoff on the streets that washed away as the firefighters were putting all those gallons of water into the flames. Now, Seattle Public Utilities doesn't know how toxic or how dangerous this could be. That's because what burned is a metal processing plant. That means the smoke and the runoff possibly full of toxic and hazardous chemicals that fire crews wouldn't normally deal with. Immediately, they called in a hazmat team, and they also asked Seattle Public Utilities and the Department of Ecology to come out and test the water and the runoff. Fire crews evacuated businesses nearby here. They warned people to stay away because the smoke is dangerous enough without the extra worry of the toxic chemicals mixed in. Officially, fire department still doesn't know how the fire started, but I tracked down some of the workers who were inside the plant when they were evacuated.
It started as an electrical fire in the magnetic particle machine, and then it went, there's oil in there, and then it got the oil, and then the black smoke was from the chemicals and oil and smoke.
Let's break it up.
Hey, it's all right.
Let's break it up.
Who are you, sir?
I'm no one. Okay?
You're who?
I'm no one.
Just tell us what happened.
I know.
Did you see anything what happened?
I don't know.
Okay.
Sue, what did you see?
No, can't. I guess we can't. Sorry.
You're now looking at live video from Sky King. There's significantly less smoke than there was. If you happen to look out your window around 2 o'clock today, you saw that big plume of black smoke almost rivaled the Space Needle as how high it was. The guy from inside the plant just said that it was the magnetic particle machine that started this fire. I tried to research what that was to explain it to you. Let's just say that it was over my head, probably will be over yours too, unless you're an expert in this, like King 5's Glenn Farley. He's going to have a report coming up on what was inside this factory in just a couple of moments. But first I want to turn to Ted Land, who's out here. Ted, you've been talking to some of the people who have been watching this fire all day. There's been a lot of curious people out here, Ted.
Yeah, it's certainly a scary sight for a lot of people in this neighborhood, Dan. I'm actually on the other side of the fire from you, in a part of town that a lot of people consider the heart of Fremont. There are shops, restaurants, and businesses all very close to one another in this part of town. Business kind of came to a standstill this afternoon as soon as people looked up in the sky and saw what was happening. That big plume of smoke just billowing over Fremont. You could see it for miles. They watched nervously at first because people were worried that it might spread to nearby properties. They're so close to one another here, just maybe an alley or a side street separating what could be dozens of businesses right next to that business. Once firefighters started gaining on the flames, people started to calm down a bit and just take it all in. It was quite a scene in this part of town, and traffic was rerouted as firefighters closed most of the nearby side streets so that they could get all their trucks in here to fight that fire. Crowds mostly just walked right down to where the yellow tape was blocking off the area because they wanted to take it all in.
Look at that tornado of black smoke. This is nuts. You don't see this.
I actually had a message across Facebook from a friend of mine who was flying in across Seattle at the time and said, oh my God, there's a big fire. Looks like maybe it's close to your office, you know.
Fortunately, his office was not affected, but that man, Scott Coughlin, did shoot some video right next to the fire. In the first few minutes as it was breaking out, you can just see how thick that smoke is as firefighters were kind of very urgently arriving to the scene here, running from one spot to another, trying to make sure that they had all their equipment in the right places so that they could get a head start on this fire before perhaps it spread to nearby businesses. Fortunately, that did not happen, and now at this hour, things are a lot more calm. As you can see out here back live at the scene, they have reopened the side streets. The yellow tape has come down, and things are starting to kind of return to normal after a pretty scary few hours. Live in Fremont, Ted Land, King 5 News.
Well, the building that burned was occupied by a company called ASCO Processing.
And Glenn Farley's here now with information about what they did exactly.
Well, a lot of things. They're basically a high-end metals processing company. Basically, they can take parts for other companies that are making parts for Boeing, for example. They say, put this finish on it, put this kind of surface on it, make the surface harder, make it wear better. Those are the kinds of things that they do. But to do that, also rebuilding some old airplane actuators and parts like that back in the new condition. But that also involves things like oil, solvents, cleaners, cutting fluids, plating equipment. You heard that gentleman talk about a magnetic machine. Well, a lot of these surfaces are put on because you put a charge onto the main part, you put a different charge onto the paint or a piece of metal, and basically what happens when you get magnets, they attract, you can get a finish that way. You can even paint in that process. So Boeing paints a lot of planes with those kinds of charges. So I imagine that's what that gentleman is talking about.
Just figuring out what was all in there.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of you sent us photographs, videos of the fire. Chris Marlowe sent us this dramatic video of the flames, the thick black smoke pouring from this burning building. Of course, the smoke could be seen for miles around. We want to thank you for your pictures, and remember, if you see news happening, share it at king5.com.
And another fire, this one in Tacoma.